Let us pray. Father Yahuwah, we thank Thee again for Thy loving kindness and Thy truth. Help us, Father, and allow us, enable us, and grant us Thy will upon us, that we may come before Thee and seek Thy way, receive Thy wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, and walk in Thy righteousness and obey Thy commandments, Father. It is such an honor and privilege, our joy, to come before Thee on this Sabbath day to receive of Thy truth, Thy word. Grant us Thy presence, Father, and let the Spirit of Yahushua indwell in us. Lead us, guide us, and protect us. Teach us, that we may receive of all that is good from Thee. Let the blood of Yahushua HaMashiach cover us and blot out sin and iniquity. Also wash us clean by Thy truth, Thy word, that we may be found guiltless and forgiven of our trespassings and transgressions. Allow us to receive of Thee, Father. Keep us set aside from the ways of this world, and let our flesh be taken away, that we may continue to bless Thee at this moment. In Yahushua's name we pray. Amen. Mm-hmm. Today is the 8th day, the first Sabbath of this lunation, 6th lunation of year 6004, and we are continuing our study in series of Book of Romans. And as much as it was my intention to go ahead and move 2 chapters Sabbath day, it's just not feasible. The Book of Romans has way too much wisdom and nuggets of truth and knowledge in it. We are taking our time. So today, Yahuwah willing, we will go on with chapter 7. Romans chapter 7. Know ye not, brethren, for I speak to them that know the law, how that the law hath dominion over a man as long as he liveth.
For the woman which hath an husband is bound by the law to her husband, so long as he liveth. But if the husband be dead, she is loosed from the law of her husband.
So then, if, while her husband liveth, she be married to another man, she shall be called an adulteress. But if her husband be dead, she is free from that law, so that she is no adulteress, though she be married to another man.
Wherefore, my brethren, ye also are become dead to the law by the body of Hamashiach, that ye should be married to another, even to him who is raised from the dead, that we should bring forth fruit unto Elohim.
For when we were in the flesh, the motions of sins, which were by the law, did work in our members to bring forth fruit unto death.
But now we are delivered from the law, that being dead wherein we were held, that we should serve in newness of spirit, and not in the oldness of the letter.
Romans chapter 7, verse 7. What shall we say then? Is the law sin? Elohim forbid. Nay, I had not known sin, but by the law. For I had not known lust, except the law had said, Thou shalt not covet.
But sin, taking occasion by the commandment, wrought in me all manner of concupiscence. For without the law, sin was dead.
For I was alive without the law once, but when the commandment came, sin revived, and I died.
10. And the commandment which was ordained to life I found to be unto death.
For sin, taking occasion by the commandment, deceived me, and by it slew me.
Romans chapter 7, verse 12. Wherefore the law is holy, and the commandment holy, and just and good.
Was then that which is good made death unto me? Yahuwah forbid. Elohim forbid. But sin, that it might appear sin, working death in me by that which is good, that sin is by the commitment might become exceeding sinful.
For we know that the law is spiritual, but I am carnal, sold under sin.
For that which I do I allow not. For what I would, that do I not. But what I hate, that do I.
If then I do that which I would not, I consent unto the law that it is good.
Now then, it is no more I that do it, but sin that dwelleth in me.
Romans chapter 7, verse 18. For I know that in me, that is in my flesh, dwelleth no good thing. For to will is present with me, but how to perform that which is good I find not.
For the good that I would, I do not, but the evil which I would not, that I do.
Now if I do that I would not, it is no more I that do it, but sin that dwelleth in me.
I find then a law that, when I would do good, evil is present with me.
For I delight in the law of Elohim after the inward man.
But I see another law in my members, warring against the law of my mind, and bringing me into captivity to the law of sin which is in my members.
Verse 24 of Romans chapter 7. O wretched man that I am, who shall deliver me from the body of this death?
I thank Elohim through Yahushua HaMashiach our Adonai. So then with the mind I myself serve the law of Elohim, but with the flesh the law of sin.
Amen. When I was in corporate church for the first 30 plus years of my life, there was no occasion for me to receive of this knowledge, even though it's plainly written in this passage. The difference between the law of Elohim and law of sin, which is synonymous to law of sin and death, or just simply called the law when it's compared to the grace. There are many different kinds of law mentioned in the Bible. The trouble with people who do not study the Bible carefully, nor are called to be led of the Spirit of Yahushua, is that they cannot tell the difference. Yahuwah willing today, once and for all, that the Spirit of Yahushua indwell in all of you, that you may receive of this truth, to completely be aware, understand the difference. Now this does not mean you know everything there is to know about the difference between the law of sin and the law of Elohim. However, you should know enough to be free from the delusion. I'll give you an illustration. If a man has been smoking for 30 years, 3 packs a day, and then he realized somehow that he shouldn't smoke anymore, and he quits. Yes, he now realized and he committed his life, the rest of his life, to be smoke-free. That doesn't mean the effects of all those years of cigarette smoking disappears overnight either. Okay? So let's delve into the text and see what Yahuwah, through the Spirit of Yahushua, grants us for today. Verse 1, know ye not, brethren. It's an asking question. Don't you know? That means you better know. Now, in this particular question of verse 1, is specifically given to the person who know the law. The law. Now, question. Whenever you have these article or pronoun, always question in your mind, what law? Don't assume, the law, like you mean 10 Commandments? Or other Levitical law? What law? Always ask that question. That way you don't automatically assume things. And that's what your flesh does. You don't need to encourage your brain to think like that. That's the way it is. That's why people see, I cannot give you exact place where to find it, but you could actually find in image searching in websites, right? Search engines. All these different kinds of photographs that people have taken. Not photoshopped, but actual photographs of an objects or nature or even some animals or plants, right? And they all have a commonality. It might be a picture of an electric circuit outlet. Or it might be a picture of a doorknob. It might be a picture of a cloud formation. It might be a picture of a tree trunk cut in pieces. But they all have a commonality. You know what the commonality is? They all resemble face of a man. Humanoid. Eyes and nose and mouth, right? And when you look at it, you will agree, oh yes, I could see the face in there. Oh, I could see face in there. The reason why those things look like human face to us is because our brain is pre-programmed to recognize human face. It's one of our biological upbringing, hardwired into our brain. Because as a baby, infant baby, we must be able to tell the difference between one face to another. And we better quickly recognize our mother's face, right? So we might get nurtured, fed, taken care of, etc. So those things are built into our biological wiring. So if you don't ask, okay, what law is being spoken on verse 1, guess what your brain's going to do? Automatically. It'll make a connection. And then you will never, unless you have Yahuwah's mercy and grace, you're not going to likely question that again, ever again. Because it is already understood. So, what law is the question? For I speak to them that know the law. What law? How that the law, what law? This particular law, hath dominion over a man as long as he liveth. So this particular law, whatever the law that verse 1 is talking about, applies as long as you live. Once you die, you're no longer under subjection of it. So, can this law include, let's say, law of weight, or what's commonly known as the law of gravity, right? If I bring this thing high, it drops. All right? Does this only apply to a living thing? This is not a living thing. It's an inanimate object, piece of plastic and metal. Yet, it drops. So if I have a dead corpse, it's going to what? If I let go, what's going to happen? It's going to drop. I'm using this as an illustration. So this particular law on verse 1 does not include the law of a physical attributes, right? Because whether you are a living body or dead body, if you are dropped from 100-story building, guess what's going to happen to you? It's going to drop to the ground, right? So keep asking this question. What is this law on verse 1 that has this attribute? As long as a man liveth, it is applicable. But as soon as he's dead, it's no longer effective. It's no longer applicable. Now, some laws of mankind has that kind of attribute. Okay? We go to Maryland quite often from Pennsylvania. And when we take the highway, as soon as you cross this junction between Maryland and Pennsylvania, speed limit goes from 55 to 70. And as far as the actual road itself is concerned, there is hardly any difference. It's exactly same, same number of lanes, same curvature, right? But as soon as this arbitrary man-made jurisdiction line crosses, one side is 15 miles per hour faster. So if you are on this side of the road, you have to keep this side of the lane, you have to go below 55. But as soon as you cross this lane, you don't have to go 55. You could go 15 miles per hour faster, 70. The jurisdiction has changed. Okay? So we need to look for whatever this law it is being mentioned in verse 1 that has this kind of attribute. So it's not talking about all law. It's not talking about this law. Dead things drop just as quickly as living things, right? Well, I provide that living things are not like a bird. Birds will flap and they might flay, you know? But living, let's say living tortoise, right? Versus dead tortoise. Or living cat versus dead cat. They're all gonna drop. And verse 2 continues this illustration. For the woman which hath an husband is bound by the law, that law, this law, the law, to her husband, so long as he liveth. But if the husband be dead, she is loose from the law of her husband. Oh, okay, so this law on verse 2 is referred as the law of her husband. It's a marriage law. So again, just like I gave you the illustration for crossing over state line from one side of state line, which is Pennsylvania, to another side of the state line, which is Maryland, and the speed limit changes, right? When husband is alive, the wife, by the law of the husband, or another name might be the law of marriage, that she cannot be married to another woman because she'll be considered adulterous woman. But when the husband is dead, that law no longer applies. Verse 3 continues, so then if while her husband liveth, she be married to another man, she shall be called an adulteress. But if her husband be dead, she is free from that law, so that she is no adulteress, though she be married to another man. So it might be the same kind of action, but completely different outcome, right? So if I'm driving 70 miles an hour on Maryland side, I'm perfectly under the permitted activity. But as soon as I cross into Pennsylvania, I maintain the same speed, right? I could get pulled over for breaking their law. Now, provided that I was driving. If I was not driving, then it wouldn't apply either way. But that's for different discussion. Verse 4 continues, wherefore, my brethren, exactly like that, in this fashion, my brethren, ye also are become dead to the law. Now the law on verse 4 is the same, the law on verse 1, which is different from the law of husband, which was mentioned in verse 2 and verse 3. Verse 2 and 3 was used as illustration, example, to explain to us what this particular law behaves like. Okay? So verse 4 continues, wherefore, my brethren, ye also are become dead to the law by the body of Hamashiach, that ye should be married to another. So, this is a spiritual explanation. Okay? Because this law that is being mentioned in verse 1 and verse 4 applies to all the living people. Doesn't matter whether you are physically married or not. You could be single, you could be an infant baby, you could be 90-year-old man or woman. Okay? As long as you're alive, it applies to you. But for some reason, once you are dead, it no longer applies. Okay? Then he should be married to another. Okay, so spiritual marriage has some implication here as well. Even to him, even means exactly to him who is raised from the dead. Who is raised from dead? Yahushua HaMashiach. Jesus Christ is raised from the dead. That we should bring forth fruit unto Elohim. When you are married to a new husband, which law are you under? Think about the example of verse 2 and 3. Consider a woman, a wife, who used to be married to husband number 1, but he died. Okay? Now she's no longer under the law of husband number 1. Now she marries husband number 2. Is she free from husband number 1's law? Yes, she is. But she's no longer free from another law. Which law? Husband number 2's law. Okay? Now once you marry husband number 2, because the first husband is dead, if you go and marry another man, then you break your new husband's law. Does that make sense? So there is another law. This is why it's so confusing if you don't understand this correctly. If you just say, oh, you're free from all law, then this illustration, this example of chapter 7 should go out the window. Because if you're free from all law, and yet you are married to a new husband, does that mean you could just screw around and sleep around and get married to as many people as you want? No, of course not. Because you are under the law of the new husband. And this is illustrated as this phrase right here. That we should bring forth fruit unto Elohim. That's the law of the new husband, which is Yahushua HaMashiach, Jesus Christ. We must bring forth fruit unto Elohim. Now, there's a requirement in order to bring forth fruit. You must be given enough length of time. It'll be unreasonable, okay, for Elohim to expect you to bear fruit overnight. It just doesn't happen. Okay. Yes, there's an illustration of Yahushua cursing the fig tree. Okay. But that's a different spiritual lesson altogether. If you are married to a husband, new husband, Yahushua, and then you die that day, Yahushua's not going to say, where's your children? How come you didn't bear children? He's not going to say that, because you're never given that opportunity. The problem becomes, you say you're married to your new husband, Yahushua HaMashiach, and it's been 30 years. And there is no fruit unto Yahuwah the Father. Then the husband has a reason to say, hey, what's wrong? I've been faithful to you. I took care of you. I put hedge around you. I put the fertilizer around your roots. Plenty of sunlight. Where's the fruit? Okay, remember that. This expression that we should bring forth fruit unto Elohim, that has to do with the new husband, which is Yahushua HaMashiach, and his law. Something that we must keep. Verse 5 continues, for when we were in the flesh, the motions of sins, which were by the law. Which law? On verse 5. The first husband's law. The one that is no longer applicable to you if you are dead in Yahushua HaMashiach and married to new husband, which is the risen Yahushua. Okay? That law did work in our members to bring forth fruit unto death. So again, there's a contrast. Comparison and contrast. When you are married to a new husband, Yahushua HaMashiach, you're supposed to bring fruit unto whom? Elohim. But when you are married to your old husband, you are bringing forth what kind of fruit? Fruit unto death. That's the contrast. Comparison and contrast. You understand? You see what Paul's trying to do? He's using illustration of a woman being married to the old husband. Now he's dead. Versus woman being married to a new husband. Okay? He's comparing that physical activity, illustrating that physical activity with us being married in the law, the old law, versus us being married unto Yahushua HaMashiach under the new law. Verse 6 continues, but now we are. Compare that with verse 5, for when we were. You were in the flesh on verse 5. Verse 6, now we are. What are we? Delivered from the law. We couldn't get out of that law, the first law, ourselves. We couldn't do it. But somebody pulled us out. You understand? Delivered from the law, that being dead wherein we were held. We are dead to that old husband where we used to be held. Held as a what? Slave and prisoner. Against our will, we were held as hostage. That we should serve in newness of spirit. How were we delivered? The reason why we were delivered is that we should serve in newness of spirit and not in the oldness of letter. The letter is also referring to the law of verse 1 and verse 4. Okay? I understand this is not going to be easy for you to follow. But you must follow this. You must study these passages carefully in order for you to grow in grace. Most people who go to churches in their lifetime, they don't study. That's why they never get it. You must chew this hard meat. Chew it carefully. Spiritually speaking, of course. You don't actually eat the physical Bible. Chew it carefully and study it. Because your life, your eternal existence depends on this understanding. And I wish, boy, I wish that there are ways that I could explain, or anyone can explain to you very simply. There isn't any. There isn't. No more so than there is no way for anybody else to eat the food for you, sleep for you when you're tired, or get sick for you when you get sick, right? It's step by step. Every step has to be taken by the person who needs to go the distance. You cannot cheat and get in a car and just drive. There is no such thing in spiritual growth. This is why humility is prerequisite. You must be humble to take the step. So I understand that this can sound very confusing. But keep watching the Bible, the text, and listen. Okay? And pray Yahushua's Spirit to give you understanding. That's critical part. Okay, let's keep on going. Verse 6 again. But now we are delivered from the law, that being dead wherein we were held, that we should serve in newness of spirit and not in the oldness of the letter, which is a synonym with the law of verse 1 and verse 4, the old law, which is the law of sin, or also called the law of sin and death. It's the same thing. Okay? What is the law of sin and death? Every soul that sinneth dies. That's the law of sin and death. Curse of humanity. That's what the law referred on verse 1 and verse 4, and the letter is referring to. Okay? It is not referring to Yahuwah's commandment for life. Because that is applicable under who? Which husband? The old husband or new husband? The new husband. We get to keep Yahuwah's law with Yahushua, our brand new husband. So all the law pertaining to life, we get to keep it. It's fully applicable to us. Such as keeping the Sabbath, such as do not lying, do not killing, do not cheating, such as worshiping Yahuwah, not taking Yahuwah's name in vain, love one another, do not get in debt. Anything that pertains to life. is applicable under the new law, new husband. Anything that pertains to death, it's with the old husband. Okay, let's keep on going. Verse 7. What shall we say then? Is the law sin? We are referring again the law of sin and death. Every man, anyone that sinneth, the soul that sinneth, shall die. That law. Is that sin? Elohim forbid. Of course not. Nay, I had not known sin, but by this law. Because we know anybody who commits sin, dies. That's how we know what sin is. Think of it this way. Look at me. Okay. People are dying. And they couldn't figure out why they are dying. I'm using as an illustration. Because they didn't have equipment to see the possible causes of death. But after a few hundred years, they found out, oh, these people are dying because of these things called germs. Whether be it bacteria or virus or fungus or whatever. And they were infected and their cells were breaking down internally. And they could see it with the high enough power microscope, right? Now, how could they know that there were such things that are killing them before the time of microscope? How did the people find out that these people were infected with something and they are dropping like flies? How did they know? Because they are dying. The death is evidence of something that is killing them, right? Early 1900s, I think it was 1919, almost 100 years ago, so-called Spanish flu killed millions of people all over the world. Millions. You could go to old enough cemeteries and you could see the same death years, 1919. Death rate was like 1 in 50 people. So if a country had 50 million people, they had 1 million dying. Now back in 1919, they could not have seen the actual virus because the magnification of microscope back then couldn't see the virus. But they knew something was killing them. Again, the death is the evidence of the agent that is killing. That's what this is telling you. Verse 8 is telling you. Verse 7. For I had not known the lust, except the law has said, thou shalt not covet. Nay, I had not known sin, but by the law. Yahuwah is telling us the reason why you die, or anybody dies, is because they are committing sin. The problem with the sin is we can't see it. It's smaller. Again, I'm using it as an illustration. It's much, much smaller than virus. It's much smaller than atoms. You can't see it. Sin is not something that is visible at all. Not with the super powerful microscope. You can't see it because it is spiritual in nature. So how do we know we are infected with sin? Well, the law tells you that. Law tells you not to do, because if you do it, you're gonna die. Do you understand? That's what verse 7 is telling you. What shall we say then? Is the law of sin and death, sin? Is it a terrible thing? Elohim forbid. Nay, I had not known sin, but by the law, for I had not known lust, except the law had said, thou shalt not covet. So people lust, they desire, they are greedy of a lot of things, and they go after it. And they think, well, this is great. There's no harm, no foul. But the law plainly tells us, if you do that, you're going to bear the fruit of death. And sure enough, they're going to eat their own words. verse 8 continues, but sin taking occasion by the commandment. Occasion means getting the authority. Because Yahuwah made these things. Okay? So the sin gets authority from Yahuwah's commandment. Wrought in me all manner of concupiscency. Concupiscency is where you get Cupid. You know? This deity floating around naked, right? Shooting arrows. Wickedness. Pleasure, as long as it's pleasurable. The trouble with this concupiscency is that in the beginning it may taste pleasurable, but the end is the death. Bitter as a wormwood, sharp edged as the knife. It's as slippery as the oil, but it'll cut you to pieces and kill you. For without the law, outside of the law, sin was dead. That means it was ineffective. It didn't have the power to kill you. For I was alive without the law, lacking law. Before the law came, I was alive once. But when the commandment came, sin revived and I died. I became powerless. So when did the commandment of the law of sin and death come? Did it come with the Moses? Think very carefully. No, it came way before Moses. Where did it come from? It came from the mouth of Yahuwah on the Garden of Eden. The day you eat of it, you shall surely die. That's it. So, Adam and Eve was alive once. So even though Paul says, I was once alive, he's generalizing the entire human species. Okay? We are all talking about the entire human being as a one man. Adam was indeed alive before the law of sin and death came to him, right? Do you understand? But when the law of sin and death, the commandment came, the day you eat of it, you shall surely die, the sin gained its strength. And the man dies. Verse 10 continues, and the commandment which was ordained to life, it was meant to keep us alive. That's another reason why the law of sin and death itself is not a bad thing. Because had we listened to it, and do not trespass against that law, do not commit that iniquity and sin, it would have kept us what? Living, right? All Adam and Eve had to do was don't eat it. You could touch it. You have to touch it to keep it clean, to dress it. We've been blessed, overblessed with bountiful harvest of peaches and pears from our neighbors, right? For some reason this summer, our neighbors' peach trees and pear trees are bearing so much fruit, the branches are breaking. It's like bowing down to the ground. So we have to harvest as much as we can and process it. Can it, cook it, preserve it, whatever. Okay? So, it was for life. The peaches were given to eat. But when it is overwhelming, right, it could actually kill the tree. The tree branches are drooping down because of all these tremendous weights of the fruit. It's like that. The commandment which was ordained to life, verse 10 says, I found to be unto death. Why? Not because commandment is bad, but because I transgress against Yahuwah's commandment. Verse 11, for sin taking occasion by the commandment, occasion means authority and power, deceived me, and by the commandment slew me. Sin killed me by Yahuwah's commandment. That's how it works. The tree branches are breaking because the tree which is supposed to bear, the fruit tree which is supposed to bear fruit, is bearing too much, right? Do you understand? If it was a non-fruit bearing tree, do you think those branches will be drooping and breaking? No. Only because it's bearing fruit. The peaches, there were too many of them. Verse 11 is telling you exact same principle. For sin, because of sin, taking occasion by the commandment, using the commandment, deceived me, got me into trouble, and by the commandment killed me. Because commandment says any soul that commits sin must what? Die. That's the commandment. That's the law that we are talking about. Verse 12, wherefore the law is holy. Yes, the law of sin and death was meant to be to keep us alive. Therefore it is holy, set aside. And the commandment is holy and just and good. Verse 13, was then that which is good made death unto me? No, of course not. It's not the commandment that is killing me by itself. It is the sin that is killing me, using the power and leverage of the commandment. You understand? Elohim forbid, but sin, that it might appear sin. Again, the reason why this process has to be honored by Yahuwah is to find out what sin is for us. Of course, Yahuwah knows what sin is, but He wants to teach us. He wants us to know how to deal with sin. What is the process of dealing with the sin as far as we are concerned? Stay away. Do not commit. Don't have anything to do with it. If we don't know what sin is, how can we do that? We wouldn't know. Okay? So verse 13 goes on. Was then that which is good made death unto me? Elohim forbid. But sin, that it might appear sin to us, appear unto us, not appear unto anybody else. Yahuwah already see the sin. He knows what sin is. Again, using the illustration of microscope and looking at virus, his eyes are so pure he could see sin wherever sin is. We don't see sin. You understand? We see sin indirectly by looking at the law, what Yahuwah told us not to do. You understand that? That's why you wash your hands when you come in from the outside before you eat. You can't see the germs with your naked eyes. But the commandment, wash your hands before you eat, is there to protect you from the infectious germs that might be clinging onto your fingernails and your fingers, right? Hands. But sin, verse 13 again, that it might appear sin, working death in me by that which is good. Commandment is good. That sin by the commandment might become exceeding sinful. Now we get to see it. Oh, remember what Yahuwah told us? If we do this, we're going to die? I could see that happening. I could see that. There must be sin here. Exceeding sinful, recognizable. We could see that. Now, when you practice Yahuwah's commandment, it becomes easier and easier to see sin. Through Yahuwah's commandment, of course. We cannot see it directly. We don't have that kind of eyesight. But because we are reminded of what Yahuwah told us, when people of this world commits that activity which goes against Yahuwah's commandment, we could see, there's a stinking amount of sin there. And what's going to be my response? Hopefully my response is, I'm not going to go there. I don't want anything to do with that. You understand? Become exceeding sinful. Verse 14 continues, for we know that the law is spiritual, but I am carnal, sold under sin. This is another way of saying we cannot see the sin directly. We don't have a capacity to do that. Hence, we must rely on Yahuwah's commandment and His law. When you come in from outside, please wash your hands. You understand? Make it a habit. Verse 15, for that which I do allow not, for what I would, that do I not, but what I hate, that do I. Well, verse 15 is a way of saying really simple. Nobody chooses to be destroyed. None of the sinners that are being destroyed would like to be destroyed or killed or go through pain and suffering of disease and accidents and all kinds of horrible situations. I haven't met anyone, even the ones who are complaining, oh man, my life stinks, I wish I was dead. What they're really saying is, this hurts. I wish it wasn't like that. If it was somewhat different situation, that's what I would prefer. No one chooses misery intentionally. Yet, who put them in that misery? They did. I can't think of anyone who is dying of lung cancer because they've been smoking 3 packs of cigarette for 30 years. Or they've been married to somebody who is a smoker, secondhand smoker, saying, oh yeah, I'm glad that I'm dying of lung cancer. That's exactly what I was shooting for, all those years of lighting up cigarette. Never seen anybody like that. They don't want to die. Yet, that's exactly what they did to put themselves into that situation. Granted, people who don't wash hands, right? They don't like to wash hands because it's cumbersome. It's like extra step. But you ask them, so would you like to have lots of diarrhea and maybe infectious disease, come up with all kinds of horrible disease and you suffer, lie down on the bed for many, many weeks and, months? No, of course not. I don't want that. But you don't like to wash your hands. Yeah, because it's too much bother. They don't want to keep the law, but they don't want to what? Be sick either, right? You understand? That's what verse 15 is saying. For that which I do not allow not, which I do allow, I allow not. I don't want to do washing the hands, but then again, I don't want to be sick either. So I acknowledge being sick is not good. So it's a predicament. It's a quandary. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. Again, let me read that verse 15 again. For that which I do, I allow not. For what I would, that do I not. I wish I could be disease-free, but I don't wash my hands. I wish I could be cancer-free of my lung, but I don't stop smoking. You see? But what I hate, that I do I. I keep causing myself to get in trouble. Verse 16 continues, if then I do that which I will not, I consent unto the law that it is good. I agree with the law. I don't want to die. The law says, don't sin, so you don't die, right? So I agree, yet I still don't follow it. Verse 17 continues, now then it is no more I that do it, but sin that dwelleth in me. Here's the separation. You must be able to see there is two in you. For a child of Yahuwah, there is always two in you. Not two people, but two in you. Your carnal nature, which is infected by sin, and choose to do the things that will destroy itself. In meantime, do you think your carnal nature likes to be destroyed? No, that's what the Bible is telling you. No one, no flesh, no physical living being, no earthly people choose to be destroyed. But that's what they choose to do. What? Why would anybody do that? You tell me. That craziness, that ridiculous example, that ridiculous process is what sin does. Okay, I'll give you another example. I hope this is getting through. A person is going on diet, exercising and eating less food, counting calories, I want to lose weight, But they will not give up their lifestyle. They like to buy fast food, go to grocery store and pick up things and just whip it up in microwave and eat it. Go out with their friends into restaurants and order stuff and enjoy, right? You know what? If anybody who wants to truly lose their weight and keep it up, all they had to do is live like the way we used to live about 200 years ago. Oh, I feel like having some pancake. How about you? Yeah, I'll like some. Would you like some maple syrup too? Sure. And some butter? Great. Yeah, pancake with the maple syrup and butter coming up. Give me about 90 days. I'll be ready. First, I gotta grow some wheat. Where else would you get the pancake? Oh, don't forget the maple syrup. Yeah, I gotta wait until the maple syrup season and drill a hole into maple tree and drain the maple, okay, liquid, and boil it. What am I gonna boil it with? Oh, maybe some wood? Okay, then here's an axe. You better start chopping the wood, because it's going to take a couple years for that wood to season. So if you did it like that, do you think anybody could get overweight eating pancake maple syrup with butter? Oh yeah, butter. You got to have a cow. Get some milk. I don't have a cow. Well, then you better get a cow. Get a kelp. Pay the money, graze him, let him grow, it's not him, it's get hurt, get big, and then she needs to get pregnant. So she'll get lactating, squeeze the milk, beat the milk to turn it into butter. If you did even remote portion of it yourself, maybe not the whole thing, but little portions of it, you could not possibly eat too much pancake to get fat. No way. So this is a curse. The modern living caused people to overweight because it is so easy for them to overeat. So again, going back to the people who are like trying to lose weight and whatever. So would you be willing to give up the convenience of modern living? What do you think? No way. Well then being overweight, the propensity to overeat and overweight is part of that problem. It's like white on rice. It comes with the territory. So this desire not to give up the modern convenience is part of sinful nature. That's what verse 17 is telling you. Verse 17 again. Now then, it is no more that I do, because I like to lose weight and be healthy. But there is part in me that is not willing to what? Work for that goal. Part of me says, oh no, I like to just go to a grocery store and they got frozen those things, pancakes. You don't even have to mix a batch. Pop it in the microwave and butter and cream, and then I could eat it. Or yeah, I could stop by McDonald's. They have a pancakes in the morning. You don't even have to cook it. Pay a couple dollars and it's there. Verse 18 continues. For I know that in me, that is in my flesh. Okay? Paul here, Apostle Paul is trying to distinguish the difference between me and my flesh. The part of me that choose to walk in sinful way is called flesh. Set that aside from me that is spirit. Okay? That's why verse 18 has that parenthesis, that is in my flesh. For I know that in my flesh dwelleth. Underline that word. Those of you who don't have a pencil or pen, you could use mine. Underline that word dwelleth on verse 18. Here. For I know that in my flesh, or in me, dwelleth. That means what? Is it something that used to be there? Something that is going to be there? What is dwelleth means? Present right now. It's there right now. What's there? No good thing. Uh-oh. You mean I'm child of Yahweh. I'm Christian. I've been born again. Doesn't matter. You still have no good thing in your flesh. Nothing good in your flesh. For to will, the reason is explained on the next part. Because, for means because, to will is present with me. I have a choice. I want to lose weight. I want to be healthy. I want to do these things. Right? The choice is present with me. I make that kind of choice. But how to perform that, which is good, I find not. I got no ability to do it. Okay, I want to lose weight, permanently. How do I do that? Be responsible for what I eat. Anything that I eat, I have to be responsible for it. Make it. Make it. Earn it. Oh, you mean like go and work to get paid in money and then buy it in grocery? No. You literally have to be responsible for what you put in your mouth. You want some egg? Start getting chickens. That responsibility. Or participate in getting chicken. You don't have to do it by yourself. Get a community together of people, like-minded people, and take turns to grow chicken. And from that chicken, you eat the egg. And only from that chicken. If people are truly responsible to what they put in their mouth, they are not going to get overweight. It is impossible. But they are not willing to do that. They don't have that ability. Again, dwelleth on verse 18. Verse 19 continues, because the good that I would, I do not. What I choose to do, I don't. But the evil which I would not, that's the one I do. I know I shouldn't overeat. That's why I overeat. I know I should stop smoking. That's why they continue to smoke. And in the worldly way, it's exactly the same principle. Those people who make it successful in the worldly way. Now, there's a limitation to what material or worldly success can bring. There's a limit to it. It's only good in your lifetime. So when you die, nothing else matters. But even inside of that limited range, there are people who choose to do good and find the ability to make it happen. Very few. And what do? They are very well self-disciplined. They sacrifice. They know how to sacrifice the present desire for their long-term objectivity. It's not different in spiritual world. Same thing. In terms of principle, that is. Again, let me read that verse 19 again. Because the good that I will, I do not. I simply don't do it. But the evil which I would not, I don't want to do that. I choose not to do that. But that I do. So what do you think the outcome is going to be? If you keep doing the things that you know you shouldn't do, and never do the things that you know you should do, what do you expect? That's how sin works. It destroys you in that way, you see? How many times do you think the alcoholic have a massive remorse after he wakes up from his binge drinking? Oh no, I got drunk again. I really shouldn't. How many times? Every time. But what do? They go right back. They know they shouldn't pick up that drink. Verse 20 continues, now, if I do that I will not, it is no more that I do it. It's no longer my choice. It's my flesh, my body and mind taking over control. And that's where the sin, this thing, this entity called sin resides. And it tells you on verse 20, now if I do that I will not, it is no more I that do it, but sin that dwelleth in me. There's that word again. We are infected by this entity, this thing called sin. It is real. It is just as real as nose on your face. Problem is, unlike your nose, you can see the sin. Verse 21 continues, I find then a law that when I will do good, evil is present with me. Okay, so mark, underline that dwelleth on verse 20, and underline that verb present on verse 21. Okay, it's all present tense. That's how it is. This is why we need a savior. We need a deliverer. We can't save ourselves. We cannot deliver ourselves because of these facts. And you could verify these facts. Just look at your life. Verse 22, for I delight in the law of Elohim after the inward man. Whatever that part of me that is redeemable. I choose life. I don't want to die. That part. I want to live. That part. I want to be healthy. That part. Okay? But that part wants to do it, but has no ability to make it happen. So that part in me that delight in Yahuwah's law, which is life, joy, peace, forever. That is inward man. Okay? Verse 23 continues, but I see another law in my members. Members means my body, mind, flesh. Okay? Warring against the law of my mind and bringing me into captivity to the law of sin, which is in my members. O wretched man that I am, who shall deliver me from the body of this death? Underline that too. This death. Not death. This death. That's kind of an odd way of saying it, right? Did you catch that when you read it? Verse 24. O wretched man that I am, who shall deliver me from the body of this death? Why does it say this death? Why doesn't he just simply say, who shall deliver me from the body of death? Or, who shall deliver me from this body of death? Why does it say from the body of this death? Because there is this death and there is what? That death, another death. This is the first death. There is a second death. Destruction of your entire character, entire personality. But this death is a physical death. This body and mind. Now we could be delivered from this death. How? By joining in Yahushua's death. You understand? By becoming one with Him. In other words, let Yahushua's death be my death. He died on the cross, right? Let that count for my death. That way I could be free from the first husband, the law of sin and death. Then I must choose and obey the law of the second husband, which is Yahushua HaMashiach, law of life, law of living Elohim. And that comes up on verse 25. Okay, this is a conclusion. I thank Elohim through Yahushua HaMashiach, our Adonai. Yahushua HaMashiach is the one who did the work. He's the one who died on the cross. I didn't physically die. I just counted my death. I just participate. You know, in Korean cuisine, it really doesn't matter how many people really shows up. You don't have to RSVP. But in Western cuisine, it is critical that you RSVP. Because if they prepare for dinner for 50 people and 52 or 51 people show up, 1 or 2, what? They go hungry. They don't have dish. Because everything is pre-portioned, right? If 50 people show up and they all get a hamburger, then they're going to cook 50 hamburgers. You cannot serve 50 hamburgers to 51 person. But that's not how it works with the Korean cuisine. If they prepare for roughly 50 people, and let's say 10 more people show up, no big deal. All we gotta do is just put 10 more chopsticks and spoons, right? 10 more bowls of rice and 10 more bowls of soup. And they all share the same thing. Do you understand? So Yahushua did all the work, and all we did is put our chopstick there, yeah, like that. And we participated. Mm-hmm. That's what verse 25 is saying. I thank Elohim through Yahushua HaMashiach our Adonai, His work, I could thank Him. So then, with the mind, I myself, with the mind, okay, inner man, I serve the law of Elohim. I'm married to the new husband. But with the flesh, the law of sin. Okay? The law of sin. Alright, we're going to take a quick break. Okay, let's go back to verse 24 again. O wretched man that I am. This is the evidence of repentance. If you don't realize your current condition, and it doesn't matter who you are, it really makes no difference what religion you are, or what your background is, or what people say you are, whether you are a good person or a wicked person. It makes no difference, because this is a universal to every human being. We must realize first what a wretched man that we are. Wretched woman, okay? Who shall deliver me from the body of this death? We keep choosing to do things that we know we shouldn't do. I mean, is it so difficult to come to the admission to that? We know we should wake up earlier, but we don't. We know we should exercise, but we don't. We know we should watch what we eat, but we don't, right? Those are, you could come up with the countless examples, okay? We know we shouldn't fight, but we do. We know we shouldn't invade another country, but we do. Do you understand? The list goes on and on and on. This death. Verse 25 concludes for this chapter. I thank Elohim through Yahushua HaMashiach our Adonai. You must be in Yahushua HaMashiach and go through Him. That's the only way. Because if you're outside of Him, that means you are still living the way you think is a good idea. You haven't been set free from your old husband. You are still under the law of sin and death. Okay. So then, with the mind, I myself serve the law of Elohim. But with the flesh, I serve the law of sin. Even now, I serve the law of sin. As long as my flesh gets in the control, I end up exercising working the law of sin. There is no exception. Until this mind and body is replaced with a brand new body and mind, there isn't any exception. Remember this. Oh, he's a holy man. He's a godly man. He does everything right. Baloney. There is no such thing. Only when you obey the leading of Yahushua's Spirit can you bear righteous fruit. That's why he keep saying. He said, you are the branch. I am the vine. When you are connected in me, when you are in me, right? You bear much fruit. But without me, outside of me, or wanting me, lacking me, you can do what? Nothing. So, ask this question. Am I in my daily routine, whatever that I'm doing, am I obeying Yahushua's desire, His will, through His Spirit? Or am I doing either what I think is a good idea or what I hate doing, but anything and everything that pertains away from Yahuwah's desire through Yahushua. That's it. There is no other choice. And if you're not certain that you're doing Yahushua's desire, then you better search. You better study carefully and make sure you know. Don't just think you know. No. And that's what fearing Yahuwah is all about. When you fear Yahuwah, you are studying Him. You're learning from Him. It's not what you think. Oh, I'm fearing, I'm afraid that I'm going to die. That fear is different from fearing Yahuwah. Fearing Yahuwah means carefully making the study. Listen to Him. Find out what He wants from you and do that. So, even at this moment, Paul, apostle, he admits that he is serving law of Elohim and law of flesh with the law of sin, right? With the flesh, the law of sin. It depends on who's in control. If the flesh gets in control, he's the one who's driving this life, then he's going to fall right back into the law of sin. So he's hoping and praying, keeping himself diligently aware, right? Watching himself not to let the flesh get in control. How does flesh get in control? Very easy. The moment you think you know how to do anything, your flesh gets in control. Pride. And another case is envy. Oh, I wish I had that. Your flesh is in control because your spirit never gets in that state. Your spirit realizes that Yahuwah is in control, full control of everything. So what other people might have, that's none of my business. I don't become envious of it. So pride and envy. Okay? Scorpion and snake. Snakes and scorpion. And every one of us has that tendency. That's why people go in the competition. They go into these TV shows, right? America's Got Talent. Why are they showing up? Hey, look at me, look at me. If they didn't have pride and envy, would they go there? Oh, but I love to sing. Well, then sing. What difference does it make whether anybody's listening to you singing or not? If you honestly say that you love music and singing is what you are craving, sing. Why does it have to be in front of people? We're going to continue with the chapter 8 next Sabbath, Yahuwah willing. But I want you to remember this. In original text, epistle, just like every other part of the Bible, there was no chapter. It's all continuing thing. Okay? So do not arbitrarily think. Again, I'm telling you this because that's how your mind works. Oh, now chapter 7 is done and chapter 8 is coming up. Not necessarily. It's all connected. Okay? Where does my arm, my hand ends and where my arm begins? Where? It's all arbitrary, isn't it? Okay. Let's pray that Yahuwah's will be done. And also, I think it's good time that I make a remark about the video presentation that I leave behind for the people to watch and hopefully get edified is an illustration. You should never trust any man, including this one. Alright? If you ever find any kind of edification from this message, you go to the source himself. You read the Bible with Yahushua HaMashiach. Okay? Pray in his name and let his spirit guide you and verify everything. Do not take anyone's statement at face value. You must chew the meat yourself. You cannot let anyone digest food for you. You have to do that. Because we all still have this dwelling thing in our flesh which is no good. We tend to follow, great men, and then they miss the whole information, the gist, and then they just take the what? Outside form, appearance, and they repeat that appearance time after time after time. It becomes a vain religion. We all tend to do that. So please, this message for Romans chapter 7 was given for our edification right now, for this time. So what I want to leave behind is that you guys do the same thing. Okay? Encourage one another to read Bible and discuss it. And let the Spirit of Yahushua guide you into all truth. Do not take anyone's word for gospel truth. That's very, very dangerous. I don't repeat this warning at every study because it goes without saying. But once in a while, I like to make it very clear. Okay? Let us pray. Father Yahuwah, we thank thee again for thy loving kindness and thy truth. Help us, Father, to come before thee in thy name, in Yahushua HaMashiach, that we may receive of thee thy good gifts. All of it, Father. Let thy spirit and our spirit be joined in Yahushua, that we may dwell with each other forever and ever. And until we receive of our trust, our new body and mind, which is formed without dirt, that shall never get old. Help us, Father, and make us that we may walk faithfully in the pathway of growth, that we may continue to grow unto thy countenance. Help us to deny ourselves each and every moment, to carry our cross, which is our flesh. And nailing onto the cross of Yahushua HaMashiach, crucifying it into Yahushua HaMashiach's cross, and be joined together with Yahushua in his death, that we may never ever again serve the desire of the flesh, and fulfilling the will of sin and death. Father, set us free from that bondage and that curse. Help us, Father, to walk in newness of life and righteousness and truth for thy glory and thy kingdom. In Yahushua's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.